Hello, everyone. I'm Hsiao. Thank you for joining me today. I really want to congratulate you because the fact that you are here tells me you're really serious about lifting your business and your life to the next level by identifying the 20 points that we will be looking at today so that you can have absolute confidence in bringing your work in this world to the next level. Now, with COVID-19, many business owners are having to come up with creative strategies to sustain themselves. Some people are thinking about starting a new business. Regardless of where you're at, you are at the right place. A couple housekeeping items here. If you look at the top left corner of your webinar, you will see a section, the handout section. Go ahead and download the Lift 20-point assessment. We'll go through this handout today, okay, point by point. And the second thing is the scheduler. At the end of the webinar, you will get a gift of up to $1,000 to access our services to lift your business and your life to success. All right, with that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we are here to help you and to serve you and to open your eyes and shine the light into the legal, insurance, financial, and tax parts of your business that could be keeping you stuck in a mind spin of worry, doubt, and fear, rather than focusing on what really matters. So we're going to free that up today by giving you the clarity that you need to live your life, to do your business with your eyes wide open, so you can bring your work in this world to the next level. With that, let's get started. All right. Hello and welcome to the Lift Your Business 20-point assessment. My name is Amy Hsiao. I'm a lawyer, a mom, an entrepreneur. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and after literally seeing it all in my own business or my family members' businesses, sometimes even when I didn't want to, and also in the businesses of my clients over the years, getting to go behind the scenes, and many business owners in a business from just starting out to generating millions of dollars a year, I've realized how easy it is not to build the solid foundation in your business. And why is that? Well, it's because we typically get lured into focusing on making more money, and not on methodically building the foundation of our businesses in a way that will allow us to relax, to feel certain and confident, to allow ourselves to make investments that will support the further growth of our lives and businesses. You see, when you don't have a solid foundation of legal, insurance, financial, and tax systems in place, you simply cannot help but leak energy, your life source energy, the energy that fuels everything into places of worry, doubt, and fear. That may show up in many different places, many different ways, but ultimately, probably at the core, you might have a fear that what you're building isn't going to last. Maybe you wonder frequently, is this really worth it? Is this really worth my investment of time and energy? And here's the truth. Without these systems in place, it won't last. You are right to be worried. So I'm curious, how much time, energy, and attention is going out right now? How much is leaking in the form of this mind spin of, can I afford this? Am I headed in the right direction? And what's the next right investment I should make and when? Will that person steal my work? Am I really getting paid what I deserve? Are my services really valuable? The list just goes on and on. So my question for you here to begin with, what percentage of your time, energy, and attention are focused on answering these questions, or at least trying to answer these questions, thinking about these questions, wondering, worrying about these questions? Now, the assessment that we're about to go through today is designed to help you reveal the gaps in your foundation so that you can relate to your business with your eyes and heart wide open and know where to focus your time, your energy, your attention, and your money. I call these, by the way, your team resources to ensure that your foundation is strong enough to withstand the test of time and recession, and help you to completely relax into focusing on what matters most, giving your unique gifts to the world in a way that is truly sustainable for you and for the people that you serve and for your family. So this assessment is going to run about an hour, and it is intended to feel like a boot camp. I'll be moving swiftly and give you just enough information to help you determine a score for each of the 20 points of the assessment, and to make any notes that you need for each line item around what's needed to get your score up to a solid 5 on each one of these points. Now, your notes can be either a conceptual one, like get written agreements in place, for all team members, or more actionable, like scheduling a meeting with Bill to talk about forming a written agreement for him. Either way, I want you to take notes with action items for yourself. At the end, you will see your score for each of the 20 points of your business foundation. The areas where you score 4 or 5, you'll have the benefit of knowing you can relax. You don't have to worry there anymore. You're on it. You're on the right track. The areas that are 2 or 3, well, those are the clear areas of work that should be done to put this foundation component in place. Now you've got clarity. Now you've got an action item. Now you know you've got to focus time, energy, and attention there. On the areas where you score a 0 or a 1, you'll know that those are the areas that serve your highest priority in order to eliminate unnecessary vulnerabilities to common pitfalls. See, I want you to learn from me so you don't have to learn the hard way, the expensive way, the long way, because frankly, you cannot afford to do it that way. And we cannot afford to wait for you to do it that way. We need your great work out in the world at the greatest level of impact, of depth and breadth as possible, as quickly as possible now. So once again, I'm glad you are here. You will be able to give yourself a grade for each of the 4 cornerstones on your business, as well as an overall lift score out of 100, which will reflect the status of your legal, insurance, financial, and tax systems in your business. And as a result, you're going to have an absolute clarity on exactly what you need to do to lift your life and business to the next level. Get out of the mind spin of worry, doubt, and fear, and say yes to bringing more of you and your work out into the world so you can create exactly what you want in your life. Okay, so I see that some of you did the ratings and in response to my question earlier. So we've got anywhere from on the low end, just about 11% of your time and energy spent on the worries. That's pretty precise. Well, all the way up to 75%. So looking at the numbers here, what that tells me is that all of you that are here can free up a lot more of your energy that is going into not having clarity, not knowing what to do next, not knowing where to focus, by focusing and getting clarity and knowing exactly what you need to do so you can focus on what really matters. So let's get into the assessment. All right. Now, as I said, there are 4 cornerstones of your business, 4 foundational cornerstones: legal, insurance, financial, and tax. The very first one is legal, and within the legal structure, we're going to go through 5 parts. The first one is incorporating your business and maintaining your business entity. Now, remember, you're going to give yourself a 0 to 5, 0 being unaware and 5 being strong understanding on each one of these pieces. So incorporating your business, first question, is your business incorporated? Is your business incorporated? Let's just start with that. Is your business incorporated, and do you have the right type of entity? And is that entity set up in the right location? Now, you know that if you know that you're incorporated and you're set up in the right location and you've got the right type of entity, give yourself a 5. If you're not sure if your business is set up in the right location, take off a point. If you're not sure if your business is the right type of business entity, take off another point. If you're not incorporated at all, give yourself a 0. Now, if you're incorporated and you think you're in the right location, you think you're in the right type of business entity, but you have not maintained your entity, meaning that you don't have an operating agreement or bylaws, you hired someone to do your incorporation and you did it because you were able to open a bank account so you know it was done, but you have no paperwork associated with it. You have no operating agreement or bylaws. You have no annual meeting minutes that you've been recording and keeping up to date, so you don't actually know if you've maintained that business entity. Take off 2 points. Take off 2 points if you have a business entity, but you have not been keeping it up to date and in compliance to make sure that it actually keeps your assets safe and provides you with the tax and legal liability protection that you wanted when you set it up, okay? So 0 to 5 on incorporation and maintaining an entity. Now, if you say, I don't even know if I need to be incorporated, give yourself a 0 there and make a note for yourself and that says, get educated on why I need to incorporate my business, what type of business entity I should use, and where I should set it up. So make that note for yourself now. Now, by the way, you can ask questions about that right here. For those of you who are here, you can simply type in the chat box and we will respond to your questions within 24 hours in your email, okay? Now, let's go on to the second point in the assessment, and that is the written agreements in place. So again, 0 to 5. If you have all of your agreements in place and they're airtight and they're win-win and you have agreements with your clients, your vendors, any business partners that you have, and all of your team members, give yourself a 5. Win-win agreements, everybody is win-win, meaning it's good for you and it's good for them. And most importantly, with your clients, you have a way of presenting your agreement that has it more likely that you'll get hired. If you've got that in place, put a little plus next to your 5. Now, if you don't have any agreements in place, give yourself a 0. And if you have some agreements in place, but you don't know if they're really win-win, give yourself a 2 or 3 on that and make a note that says, I need to get my agreements reviewed. I need to get my agreements reviewed. Because if they need to be win-win, and when they're with your clients or your customers, when you've got great agreements in place, that actually makes it more likely that you're going to get hired. When you've got not so good agreements in place, they're costing you money. They're making it less likely that you will get hired. So that's the agreements. If you've got any questions about that, type into the chat box or just note it down and make a note. I've got to get win-win agreements in place that make it more likely that I'm going to get paid by my clients, that my vendors are going to love working with me, and that my partnership agreements are going to last a really long time and make handling any bumps along the way really smooth. So that's agreements. That's point number 2. Let's go into your team structure. First of all, ask yourself this question. Do I have a team that I work with, or do I want to have a team? Now, if you have a team and you know for sure that they are all properly identified as independent contractors or employees, and that you have them under agreement properly, you've got the right agreements in place, then on your worksheet, give yourself a 5 and congratulate yourself. Now, if you have team members in place and you're not so sure if they're properly identified as an independent contractor, and you're not sure if they're properly identified as an employee, and you don't have agreements in place, give yourself a 1. I want you to give yourself a 1. If you don't have any team members in place at all, just give yourself an NA, not applicable, if you don't intend to have any team members in place. Now, there's one other factor here. Let's say that if you do have team members in place, you do believe that they are all properly identified as independent contractors, but you do not have agreements in place, or you have not used a safe harbor provision to keep yourself from getting sued in the event that you've misclassified those team members as independent contractors instead of employees, give yourself a 2. And make a note that says, I need to make sure that I'm using the safe harbor. I'm going to give you a little story here. Actually, one of my friends has a business in California, Southern California, and California really is the worst for this type of things. I just have to be honest with you. If you have a bunch of team members that you classified as independent contractors. Now, one day his office got raided by cops with guns. Everybody was told to leave. They shut down the office. They searched all his files. They got criminal charges filed against him for improperly categorizing his team members as independent contractors rather than employees, because the California Labor Department, they're wanting to get paid, and they're using him to make an example by using criminal charges. Now, while that might be unlikely to happen to you, what is more likely to happen, and what could happen, is that your team member that you've identified as an independent contractor could quit or get fired, more likely get fired in this case, and then could file for unemployment with your state unemployment department and say, I was an employee and I should have been an employee. And guess what happens? The state comes after you for back taxes if that happens. And if you have to go fight it in that state, even if that person is not in your state.
Now, there are safe harbor provisions that you can use if you know about them. So if that applies to you, on your worksheet, write down, I knew you'd have to find out. I knew I have to find out about the safe harbor provisions. All right, and give yourself a 2. All right, then we've got your intellectual property. Now you might be saying, I don't know, do I even have any intellectual property? I'm going to say yes. If you're doing any business online, you've got a website, you've got intellectual property. So if you've got any forms or articles that you create, intellectual property. And if you've got any systems and specific ways of doing things, intellectual property. If you've got a name, you've got intellectual property. If you know that all of your intellectual property is airtight, protected with trademarks and copyrights, and the right licensing agreements in place, you give yourself a 5. If, however, your intellectual property might not be covered by trademarks, copyrights, or agreements, you give yourself a 1 or maybe even a 0 and say, I'm going to get my intellectual property protected. First of all, I need to identify what is my intellectual property. And I'll tell you a little story of one of my friends who created a fabulous website. Okay, she actually spent $25,000 asking her friend to create this website for her. Later, she wanted to use some of the, she wanted to buy this website or use it in a way to, in many ways it was great. And the person who created her website the services on the website slowed down, and he wasn't able to meet her demands on maintaining the website. So she asked him, hey, can I get the password and login so that I can show the site to some other people who I might want to maintain the website? And then he said to her, well, you don't own the source code on that website. No, you own the content, but we own the source code. So if you want, you can buy it from us for $40,000. And guess what? She ended up having to pay him an additional $40,000 to buy that website from him. Had they had an agreement in place, then this would not have happened. And it costed my friend a lot of money and energy in trying to figure all this out. I don't want to see that happen to you ever. All right. So if you think that this could be a concern, go to your list assessment and mark yourself down either a 1 or 2 if you're not sure. Okay. If you've got nothing in place, you could give yourself 0. Remember, giving yourself a 0 is just making a note for yourself of what you need to focus on next. We're just shining the light into these corners of your business so that you can see what's real and true, so that you can focus on taking clear, direct action. And don't worry, I'm not going to leave you hanging here, I promise. I'm going to let you know how you can get all of this straightened out for yourself as easily and inexpensively and efficiently as possible before we end today. All right, so that's intellectual property. The last of our legal component is one that some people think is heavy, but I think is actually the thing that allows you to have a life worth living and a legacy worth leaving. I wonder, does that matter to you? Do you want to have a life worth living and a legacy worth leaving? I would guess so. You're here, after all, and that's what we're here for. That's what we are all here to talk about, okay? So what we're talking about here is facing the reality that one day we're all going to die. And I see that as a positive thing, because when I think about the reality of my own death and that it's coming, it helps me to make the decisions I need to make today to have a far better life. I know that that's the case for everyone who faces death and the reality of death with eyes wide open. So you've got to have some legal planning in place when you accept this reality, because it is that legal planning, facing the reality of your death and possibly an incapacity ahead of time, that is what allows you to create a life worth living and a legacy worth leaving. So that legal planning is going to be in the form of business succession planning, trusts, healthcare directives, powers of attorney, wills, and if you've got children, kids protection planning or guardian nominations. And again, you're just going to write yourself here, write down, take notes on your worksheet, 0 to 5. 5 saying, I've got that all buttoned up and I know it's good. It has been reviewed within the last year. I know where all my assets are and they're going to be easily accessible to the people that I love. They're going to be able to find them. They're going to know exactly what to do with them. It's all going to stay out of court and out of conflict. I am secure and sure about this. Give yourself a 5 and I will high five you on that one. Now, if you've got nothing, give yourself a 0 and mark down next to that little section right there. I need to talk to a lawyer about getting my personal legal affairs in order so that my family can find my assets if anything happens to me, and they can keep them out of court and out of conflict. And they will know exactly what to do if and when something does happen to me. Okay, so just mark that down, and that will then complete our first of our 4 cornerstone pillars of legal in your LIFT foundation. With that, that is going to bring us to our insurance. Insurance is the second of our 4 pillars, and insurance, you'll see that there are 5 categories within your LIFT assessment: home, health, business, life, and community. Again, scoring yourself on a 0 to 5, 0 if you've got nothing, and 5 if you've got it all buttoned up, and you're good to go. And we'll go somewhere in between if you're not sure, if you've got something checked out, make a little note for yourself. So first, on the home, you've got to have in place renter's insurance if you're renting, and if you're a homeowner, then you would have homeowner's insurance. With our natural disasters at an all-time high and getting even higher, you might want to be looking at appropriate natural disaster coverage for your area, whether that's earthquake coverage, if you can get it, or flood coverage, if you can get it, and also looking into the possibility of what's called an umbrella insurance, an umbrella policy. So let me just share a little bit about a friend's story. So her apartment got raided one time, and she's a writer. She keeps all her work on her laptop, and she lost her laptop. Luckily, she does have a renter's insurance policy that she pays $300 a year, and it was only 1 year since she started paying the policy, and they immediately sent her a $3,000 check for her to get a new computer. And so you definitely want to have insurance in place so you can relax, breathe easy, and know that you've got the right type and the right amount. Because I will say this, that a lot of insurance people are order takers, meaning if you're not asking for the right type and the right amount, you're not going to get it. So on your home, renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance, and by the way, while we're at it, you might want to be looking at your mortgage to see if you're paying private mortgage insurance, PMI, an extra payment that you make when you didn't put down a big enough down payment on your house. And it might be time to drop that. Maybe you don't need that anymore, and that could save you a lot of money. Now, I did mention umbrella policy, and it is a policy that will go over all of your insurance and provide an extra layer of liability protection in case somebody gets hurt in your home for a very minimum cost, okay? Now, in case you're in an auto accident, let's talk about auto accident here for a moment, and that's going to go into your life category, or it could go into your home category. Either way, you want to make sure that you have auto insurance policies. You've reviewed them and that you're paying for both underinsured motorist and uninsured motorist. Sometimes people decline these. They want to save money. Don't save money that way. It's not a good way to save money, because if you're in an accident with somebody who has not enough insurance on their own or has no insurance, you're completely out of pocket. So again, if you're not sure if you have that, but you do have auto insurance, then give yourself a 2 and then make a note. I'm going to need to check my policy. If you need to learn more about all of this, just make a note. I'm going to get educated here. Let's move on to health coverage and health insurance. We know here in the United States, everybody has to have health insurance where we get fined on our taxes for it. And right now, if you have a HMO or PPO, that's what I call a sick insurance, meaning you only you use it, or it comes in handy only when you're sick, right? And you're paying $400, $500, $600, $700, $800 out of pocket to an insurance company for insurance that you don't even use, and you have copay, and then sometimes some of the things are not even covered. And instead, there's another type of insurance, which is getting more and more popular nowadays. It's called a concierge medical program. You can pay for this kind of policy, and you can text or call your doctor anytime, and he or she will respond right away. It's like having your personal doctor. Something happens to one of your kids, you can text or call the doctor and get in right away, you know. And so if that's something that interests you, you definitely want to look into that. And with the concierge medical program, it really focuses on preventative care rather than sick care. Right? So if that's something that you want, make sure to make a note on your worksheet and say, I need to explore well health insurance, concierge medical program, or other types of health program. Well health insurance instead of sick health insurance. Okay. If you've got that in place already and you feel really great, give yourself a 5. If you're paying a lot of money for insurance that only pays when you get sick, I want you to give yourself a 2 or 3 and make a note. I need to explore something else here. If you have an HSA policy in place, a health savings account, where if you do have that sick plan in place, at least make sure that you have an HSA to go along with it so that you can pay for any medical care that you need with free tax dollars, meaning that you're taking a deduction on your taxes for that. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, make a note. I need to find out more about this health insurance option, the HSA, and give yourself maybe a 2 on that. The next one, proper business coverage. So if you have no business insurance in place, give yourself a 0. Let me just give you a little story of a friend of mine. When she first started her law firm, you know, she just had a insurance guy, a local insurance guy, help her with the policy. So she got a general liability business insurance and a legal malpractice insurance. And the insurance guy didn't tell her about the employment practices insurance. And later on, she got sued by an employee. And because unfortunately, sometimes things like this just do happen. And because she didn't have any employment practices insurance in place, she ended up having to pay $10,000 out of pocket to just get some lawyer to look into this lawsuit for her. In the end, she couldn't afford to fight the lawsuit, even though she was in the right. She was in the right. She just settled that lawsuit for a 5-figure settlement just because she did not know that she needed employment practices insurance. So if you have employees, this could be something that you might want to look into. All right. And if you don't have any business insurance in place and you're not even sure what kind you need, give yourself a 0. If you do have some in place, but you're not sure if that's the right type or the right amount, give yourself a 2 or a 3. If you've got this buttoned up and you're super sure that you've got the right type, you've got the right amount, you've got all the right everything with your business insurance, give yourself a 5 and I'll give you a high 5. Now let's go on to the life category. Now, life insurance is the other end of the spectrum here because it is not sold by order takers typically. It is sold by highly commissioned salespeople who are going to do their best to get you to buy the type and kind of insurance that's going to pay them the most. So you've got to be really careful here and really be in the know, at least have an objective advisor who's able to look over what somebody is telling you to buy, because it can be really confusing. There's a lot of numbers, there's a lot of options, and sometimes it's a lot of money. Sometimes a policy that costs a lot of money is going to be fantastic for you. It's going to be exactly what you needed, but you probably need somebody to look at that with you. So if you know for sure you've got the right type and amount of life insurance in place, you give yourself a 5. If you're not sure, but you've got something and you're not sure if it's the right type or the right amount, give yourself a 2 or 3 and make a note. I'm going to get my life insurance reviewed. If you have no life insurance in place whatsoever, and you have any dependent, and these dependents can be in the form of minor children, team members, clients, anybody that would happen, that would depend on you, a spouse, a non-working spouse, and that's a person who, if you were to die, is going to lose out on the income that you're bringing in, and you have nothing in place. I want you to give yourself a 0 and make a note. I'm going to get some life insurance in place. Some people even get life insurance in place to take care of their parents if anything happens to them, if their parents are dependent on them, for example. So it's important to understand who is dependent on you. What are they going to need? And do you have the right type and amount of life insurance? I'm going to put within the context of that as well, disability insurance. And that's the kind of insurance that would pay out if you were to become disabled and not just dying. Now, if you don't have any dependents truly, and I might argue that even if you're in business for yourself and if you have clients and you have a team, you do have dependents. They may not be in the traditional form of dependents in the form of minor children, but they are people dependent on you. You want to have life insurance to cover them and an indication of what should happen to that life policy. What should it be used to phase out your business or to support your client going to their next level? Now, if you expect that when you die, just everything goes away and you don't have any dependents and you've got a will and a trust and everything in place to keep your family out of court and out of conflict, then okay, you don't need life insurance. You don't need life insurance, but you might want to just double check on that. So if you're not sure, give yourself a 1 for that. I'm sorry, let's say a 4, okay? 4, right? You don't have any dependents and you don't have the life insurance, give yourself a 4, but just double check, okay? All right, so, but if that's you, let me say just one more thing. You might need long-term care insurance because if you became incapacitated, could not care for yourself, then who is going to care for you in that case? You want to make sure you've got that covered for sure. If you don't have that covered yet, give yourself a 2 or 3 and say, I need to look into long-term care insurance. Now, one form of long-term care insurance can be the next and last category in our insurance track here, which is community. Community, okay? Now, community is not your traditional form of insurance, not like you write a check to an insurance company and they say, okay, if something happens to you, we're going to put out that money. Community is that you've got people who have your back. Now, that could be in the form of blood family, it could be in the form of chosen family, or something else entirely, right? Now, but I want all of you to begin thinking about investing conscientiously in creating that kind of community, the kind of community that you know has your back if and when something happens to you. If you don't have that in place right now, I want you to give yourself a 0 or a 1 and make a note to yourself, I'm going to start to build a community that I know has my back. Who do I need to become to be able to live, work, and play in a community with people that I want to have their back? Now, this has been a huge part of my personal journey over the last 10 years because the fact that I didn't have that 10 years ago. I knew how to make money and I had kids and I had an ex-husband, but I did not have a community that I knew I had my back. I did not have family nearby and a community of people whose back I wanted to have. Now I do. And frankly, I think that's the most important form of insurance as we move into the new world that is being created. It is knowing that you've got community who has your back, chosen family or blood family. So if you don't have that, you mark yourself a 0. If you do have that and you've got that community supported by insurance, meaning that if something happens to you, they've got that insurance that they need to either take care of you or to take care of your things, you give yourself a 5. You give yourself a 5. Now, let's talk about whole life insurance for a bit here. There are many benefits of many different kinds of permanent insurance. And this is going back to the life insurance category. If you don't know if you have the right type and amount of insurance for you, you mark that down, a 2 or a 1, and just say, I've got to investigate what are these types of insurance and how do I find an advisor that I can really trust to make sure I've got the right type and kind of insurance. So now give yourself a total on the insurance category, adding up to 25. If you've got a 25, I give you a double high 5. If you have less than that, now you've got your eyes wide open about where you need to focus to get some insurance foundations in place. All right, let's get into the next category here. And the next pillar is financial. And many of you have most of your energy and attention focused here, constantly worried about whether you have enough money and if you're going to run out, and can you retire, and do you have enough in savings, all of those kind of questions. There's a huge amount of mind spin, and I'll share for you that that's certainly been the case for me a lot of my life. Am I going to make payroll? Can I make this next investment? Should I spend this? Can I afford this? Now, making money and keeping money in the pocket and maintaining the money are separate skill sets. I can say that that's certainly true for me. And a friend of mine, I'll share a story here. A friend of mine built $1 million business within just a few years of starting out on her own. And during those years, she was constantly worried about not having enough money. I was there with her in yoga classes, and she was constantly worried. And because she didn't have the solid foundation in place, she ended up in bankruptcy and paying half of what she earned in taxes the next year. Later, when she built her second business, she made sure, very intentionally, that she had the solid lift foundation in place first. Now, she not only has a $9 million business, but she runs her business with total ease and peace of mind, having absolute clarity. And you can have that as well. Now, personally, I started my own law firm many years ago as I was pregnant with my son. I had this idea that I could just work from home and balance work and family. Turned out to be a very naive idea. Turned out that being an entrepreneur meant working 24/7, and I was so terribly stressed out for quite a while. And it was until after I implemented the Lift Foundation in my own life and business that I started feeling at ease and confident. Now I know exactly what my numbers are and can make strategic decisions based on that, such as expanding the team to provide even more service to the people that we serve. And this is all strategically based on me knowing what I need. So we're not expanding our revenue so we know we can make more profit so that I can suck out so that I can make more money. I'm actually making what I need and supporting more people in the community. And I'm making what I need, whether we do a $500,000 a year in revenue or $5 million a year in revenue in the business, because I know what I need. And same for you. All right. So the size of the business isn't based on me not knowing what I need or on overselling or overworking. It's based on enough. If you read Lynn Trith's book, The Soul of Money, and I strongly recommend that you do if you haven't, you'll hear her talk about a concept of sufficiency. Sufficiency is knowing that we have what we need. And sufficiency is being able to come from a place of abundance and give back from this place of abundance because we know that we have what we need. And what I have found is that most people don't. And if you find yourself spinning on this question constantly, do I have enough? Do I really have what I need? I want you to give yourself a 0 or a 1 in this category, in the money map numbers. So money map numbers is basically, do you know what you need? Do you know if you have enough? Do you know what you need? Give yourself a 0 or a 1 if you don't know what you need. Now, if you know exactly what you need and you're having it, I want you to give yourself a 5. If you know what you need, but you're not having it, then I want you to give yourself a 3. And you can know what you need by going back in history and looking at your expense tracking. Okay. If you don't know how much you have expended in your business, if you have no idea, then give yourself a 0 there. Then we'll go on to knowing what you want. Now, do you know the difference between what you need and what you want? Now, again, most people don't. So I want you to give yourself I want you to rate yourself here on, do you know what you want? Have you fully let in what you want? Again, most people haven't. And there are many places we hide our desires. And I'll just give you some of my secret hiding places of where I hide my desires. And what do I mean when I say, hide my desires? Most of us have not allowed ourselves to ask the question, what do I really want? What do I really want? And oftentimes we don't ask and answer that question because we don't think we can really have it. So if I don't think I can really have it, I'm not even going to acknowledge that I want it. And that's one place I hide what I want, is behind, well, I can't really have that. Another place that I hide what I want is behind jealousy. I'll be surfing on Facebook and all of a sudden I'm feeling jealous. I might not even notice I'm jealous. I might think I'm judging somebody. Oh, can you believe that person? Well, here's what I have come to discover, that my judgment, my can you believe that, and my jealousy is a place I hide what I want. So I just want you to start to notice where you might be judging, jealous, or denying what you want because you think you can't have it. If you're noticing any of those things and you're able to see them as pointers toward what you want, such that you are sure you know what you want, I want you to give yourself a 5. I want you to say, yes, I see my sneaky self. I see where I hide these things that I want and don't. And I can acknowledge what I want. Then give yourself a 5. If, however, you're not clear on what you want, or you find yourself spending a lot of time saying, what do I really want? I don't even know what I want. I just don't know what I want. I want you to give yourself a 0 or a 1. If you think that you know what you want, but maybe based on what you're hearing right now, you might be starting to let in the possibility that there might be something that you're not seeing. I want you to give yourself a 2 or a 3 and celebrate a little bit that you're willing to look. I want you to make a note where it says, look and see if there is something that I want, but I'm not acknowledging that I want. We'll talk more about how you can discover that for yourself before we end today, but just rate yourself for right now. And the third point, the third category in the financial portion is if you know how to get there, the future, the financial modeling, that you know how to get there. If you know what you need and you know what you want and you know how to get there, then you're on track and you're on course and you know exactly what's coming next for you to get there, then give yourself a 5. And in fact, double high 5 on that one because it's very rare having that kind of clarity, okay? Just based on what I've seen. So if you know how to get there, you know exactly what is the right income model for you to use the time that you have, the energy that you have, the attention that you have, the money that you have to get to where you have all of your needs met. And in fact, you're ready to start focusing and are already having what you want. That's so awesome. And now, if you don't know that, don't worry. I've got a process to get you there, to get you the clarity of knowing what you need, to get you the clarity of knowing what you want, and to allow you the map and build the income model to get from where you are to where you want to go as streamlined and effectively and efficiently as possible. So if you don't know how to get there, go ahead and give yourself a 0. If you're like totally blank, still doing a 9-to-5 job and nope, there's no way I can ever leave, I'm stuck here in an undefeated place, then give yourself a 0 there. If you're in a place of like, I know I can get there, I know I can, if I just have the map to get from where I am to where I want to go, give yourself a 2 or a 3 and say, get the map, get the map. Now, the next item, the weekly review of reports. Are you consciously reviewing your financials on a weekly basis? Now, what does consciously reviewing your financials on a weekly basis mean? Well, it doesn't mean obsessing. And that's what I used to do because I did not have any systems or containers or rhythms or structures in place for looking at my financials in a way that was full of ease and grace. I obsessed. Constantly worrying all those things that we talked about before. Do I have enough? obsessively checking the bank account or measuring everything to the penny? Am I keeping track of everything to the penny? Because I didn't know. I was so terribly stressed out. I did not have any containers and structures and systems and rhythms. Now, however, I have that. I have containers and systems and structures and rhythms because I have had to create them. Every week, I look at my financials and I know what they mean. And honestly, I learned not to look at my financials right before I go to bed because that is a recipe for insomnia for me. So I never do that anymore. Instead, what I do is I look at them every Monday morning. I've got time blocks on my calendar to do that at 11 a.m. Monday morning. That's my financial review time for the week. And by the way, time blocking on your calendar is literally the holy grail to spending time and getting everything that you want done and more. So I block time on my calendar, and I have certain reports that are sent to me because I know how to work with my bookkeeping team and my CFO. So every week, my bookkeeper cleans up my QuickBooks, and I'm able to see exactly what's happening, eyes wide open, look at my financials, and I no longer avoid the numbers. And instead, I'm excited to see what's coming up and if I'm going to run out of money. Why? Because I find out enough time that instead of engaging my worry mind, my mind spin mind, I'm able to engage my creative mind and say, all right, we've got time. Now, let's get into some creative action to see how we can make up that shortfall. And because that's a necessary piece of business, there are going to be times that you're playing at your edge and you're playing full out. You're going to run out of money, and it's okay. It's not wrong. So if you're getting a weekly review right now, give yourself a 5. If you're not getting any sort of weekly review, give yourself a 0. And in fact, if you're stressed and worried about your money because of that, if you do have some systems and structures in place, give yourself a 2 or a 3. And then the last component is the monthly and quarterly analysis. Okay. So if you do have this scheduled on your calendar for monthly or quarterly review, but then every time when you were set for the appointment, you'd be sick or you'd be wanting to go to the doctor or you'd have an appointment here and there and cancel that, then give yourself a 0. And I say that because that's how I used to be. I used to avoid those appointments, but not anymore. All right. If you are doing a monthly and quarterly review, you know exactly what you're looking at and you're using what you're looking at to strategize and make really wise decisions, give yourself a 5. If you're getting some reports, but you don't really know how to read them in a way that's meaningful, that allows you to use them as a crystal ball, then give yourself a 2 or 3 and make a note that says, I need to learn how to read my numbers and how to strategize based on these monthly and quarterly reviews of my numbers. All right. So we are going to add everything up here in your financial section. If you're at 25, high five to you. And if you're less than that, that's okay. Just make a note. I've got to get this handled because I've got work to do. And that really, I've got work to do that really matters in the world. We need you to do that. Okay. And I'm going to let you know exactly how to do that. All right. So stay with me because we've got one more section here. We've got taxes. And I'm going to go do this really fast because I'm going to let you know how you can get all of this handled and feel totally confident that you've got the legal, insurance, financial, and tax foundations in place. So again, you can focus on what really matters to you. So tax. We've got 5 sections here. Number 1, are you current on your tax filings? If not, give yourself, well, let's start with the other end of spectrum. If you're current on your tax filings and your taxes are paid up, give yourself a 5. If you're current on your tax filings but owe money, give yourself a 2 or a 3. If you're not current on your tax filings, if you've got some back taxes, give yourself a 0 here. And also a pat on the back for being willing to take some action. And make a note that says, clean up this leak. And again, I'm going to give you some resources that allow you to do that without stress, strain, worry, or fear. You don't have to have fear in this area. You actually just need to be educated to know how to clean it up in a way that allows you to breathe easy, because it's stress if you don't have it handled. Okay, second portion, clarity on tax filings. So tax time comes around and you've got the tax return. It's ready to file. And now, do you just sign it without looking? If so, 0. If you look at it and you know exactly what you're looking at and what you're looking for to see if there are any errors or any possibilities for red flags for tax audit, give yourself a 5. If you're anywhere in between there, give yourself a 2, 3, or 5, or 4. Depending on how confident you feel, and make a note to yourself and say, get a little more educated on this so that I can sign my tax return with confidence. The third section, proper saving for taxes. Do you have some money put away for taxes? And most importantly, are you strategizing for that properly? Every September, October, November timeframe is when you should be strategizing to pay as little taxes as possible in the coming year, in the next year. If you wait until after the first of the year or even until April, it's too late. You're already paying way too much in taxes. So if you are strategizing in September, October, November, and taking action to decrease your taxes, give yourself a 5. If not, give yourself a 0 and make a note that says, find out how I can strategize to save my taxes. The next section, current on paying taxes. Now, do you secretly think that you're paying too much in taxes? If so, I want you to give yourself a 0, 1, or 2, or maybe even a 3, depending on how much extra or how much you think you're paying too much. If you know that you're minimizing your taxes as much as possible, well, you could give yourself a 5 in the minimizing taxes category, and in the paying taxes category. If you're all caught up and you know that your taxes are as low as possible, then you give yourself a 5 there. All right. So add those up and you'll be up to a score of up to 25 on your taxes. If you're just feeling so great about how you're handling your taxes. If not, note your score and make a note to yourself and say, oh, I can get educated here. Educated people pay the least amount of taxes. You know what that means. And it means that you can keep more in your pocket and direct where that money goes. Okay. So we're at the end of this lift assessment. We have just looked at the 20 points of your business. You rated yourself in each one of these areas, eyes wide open, so you can address your legal, insurance, financial, and tax systems. I want to know, how did it go for you? How did you do? What surprised you here? What did you see that you weren't seeing before? Do you feel better or worse about your life or business now? Either way, I imagine that you feel more clear. And that's the most important thing to me. That's the most important thing to me because it's it is your clarity that you need to free up your creative and mental energy so that you can focus on what really matters and stop the worry, doubt, and fear of not knowing what you don't know. And that's really the thing that's zapping the life energy out of you. So you now have the clarity about where those gaps are. With that clarity, you have options about what to do about the gaps. Here are my questions for you before I share the following 4 options for you to fill in the gaps. And that is, how motivated are you to fill in the gaps? On a scale of 1 to 10, I want to hear from you about how motivated you are on a scale of 1 to 10, because I'm going to give you 4 options. Knowing your motivation level to fill in these gaps will help you to identify which of the options is best for you. And before I share the options with you, you share with me on a scale of 1 to 10, and you can type in the chat box, how motivated are you to close the gaps in your lift foundation? And what was your overall score on the assessment? Share the numbers here so I can help you to identify which of the 4 options is best for you. Okay. Now, I see some of you are posting frowny faces because your score is low. Let's go ahead and turn that frown upside down. There is no need for frowning here. Whether you've got a score of 17 or a score of 61, what you have is clarity. What you have is clarity. Again, that's the most important thing, because from here, you now know what you didn't know before. And what really matters is your motivation level. 1 to 10, and 10 being, I am so motivated, and I'm going to do what is necessary to get this handled. 1 being, nope, I see what I need to do, and I'm not willing to do it to get it handled. And that's what really matters here. So you can have a score of a 17 and have a huge smile with the motivation of 10 to get it handled. All right. So as you're posting your scores and your motivation level here, I'm going to just go ahead and give you the options. So for motivation that's less than 10, if you can also let me know why. What is keeping your motivation from being a 10, and what's in your way? We're going to look now at the 4 options you have for getting it all handled as easily and gracefully as possible without being overwhelmed, without being stressed, without being worried. I want to say this. The first option is for you to give it all up. If the score on your assessment was low and your motivation level is low, then you might not be ready to build these foundational systems. And as a result, running your own business right now just might not be a fit. You might want to focus on other sources of income and come back to running your own business when you're ready and enthusiastic to step into leadership and build these systems for yourself. That's just, there's simply no way around it. In the meantime, though, you might want to consider at least getting some of your personal lift system in place. And here's what I can say for those of you that are in the I'm not so motivated because it feels overwhelming. I'm going to give you a way for it to be less overwhelming. And I want you in this moment to make the choice to shift what's going on up here that says to you, it's so overwhelming. And make the commitment to your work in the world to say, I can do this. I can face this. I can move through this if I have the support and guidance to do it. Otherwise, if you're not willing to do that, it's unlikely you'll be able to move forward, and you should not be in business for yourself. I want to make that really clear. Okay, so I see we've got one taker here. Good, he has shifted into a 10. And it really can be that simple. Thank you. It really can be that simple. Now, of course, you still do need to take the action. So the next 2 ways that I'm going to give you are likely to be a bit overwhelming. That the first way is that you can guess. You can do all your own legwork to figure out what is exactly needed to fill your lift system gaps. You can do research online. You can sift between good information, bad information, outdated information. It's really time consuming and frustrating. Trust me, I've been there, I've done it. If you're motivated to build your business and focus on what really matters, and that's the way that you've been doing it, of course it's overwhelming. It's hugely costly. in terms of your time, your energy, and your attention that really needs to be focusing on the growth of your business and your work in the world. So guessing is not going to be the answer that you want to take, especially if you're feeling any sort of overwhelm at all. Don't even go down the guessing route. Now you could say, well, I'm just going to hire it out. I'm just going to hire it out. I'm too busy doing any of it myself. I know I'm just not going to take the actions. I'm going to hire it out. You can. You can simply find the right team to handle these issues. That simply isn't always the case, unfortunately. It can be extremely expensive. It can be frustrating trying to find the right people. And you often have to go through finding the wrong people first before you find the right people when you are doing it without guidance. It's risky because you don't really know if they're doing what needs to be done. And like me, you can learn the hard way. It also can be extremely time consuming to orient these professionals to work in and on your business. And for most of you, I think that the fourth option, and that the one that I'm talking about now, is to get empowered, to take advantage of education and empowerment resources that were made exactly for you right now, so that you get not to do the guesswork of trying to figure out how to hire the right people and trying to research online, but instead you get consolidated information and education that lets you know exactly what you need to know, that is just for you and the micro business owner who is bringing your greatest work out into the world. The template legal agreement that you need in order to do that, the financial tools that you need in order to be looking at these weekly reports and these monthly and quarterly reports and reading them as a crystal ball into the future, the conversation starters that you need in order to hire the right people. If you're going to hire legal, insurance, financial, and tax people, implement maps that really takes you through step by step so you know exactly what to do and you know exactly what you can and should do yourself and when you need professionals to support you, and then how to hire those professionals. This system is called the Lift Foundation System and Toolkit, and literally a plug and play resource for you to get maximally empowered as efficiently and as effectively and with the least amount of overwhelm possible. The investment is small, the time savings is huge. Most of you get the surety, the assurance of knowing that you're building your business properly, and that, as you know, is priceless. And so I want to thank you today for participating in the Lift Your Life and Business 20-point assessment. What I want to let you know right now is that our team has put together a special offer for those of you who are here with us today, the Lift Foundation System and Toolkit. And this is the system that I use for my own business and to address each one of these legal, insurance, financial, and tax systems in a way that allows you to move through the overwhelm into action. If you're motivated to take care of these steps, these gaps, in a way that allows you to do it and know that you've done it and you've done it well, and it gives you the confidence that you need to focus on what really matters in your business. Now, this program is typically $1,497, and people buy it for that amount all day long. But today, during this webinar only, you are going to have access to it for $1,000 off, okay? And that includes all the education and resources, including the template legal agreements that it could cost you thousands of dollars to create, the conversation starters so you can make sure that you're hiring the right people at the right time. Before you hire a lawyer, you are asking the right questions. And before you hire an insurance person, you're asking the right questions. Before you work with a bookkeeper, you're working with them in the right way. Let us know if you would like access to that. Simply type in the chat box, send me the Lift Foundation System and Toolkit, and we'll send you the access to it with the discount code, okay? Now, I see many people post on Facebook, hey, does anybody know a bookkeeper in our community, or a CPA, or a lawyer? I often cringe inside when I see these because I know that they're probably on their way to making the wrong hiring decision. But with these conversation starters in place in the Lift Foundation Toolkit, you can hire the right people to support you. And you can even hire someone to go through the Lift Foundation system for you and put in place alongside you so you don't have to do it alone. We're also offering you an extra bonus today. For those of you who would like for me to help you and sit down with me personally, we are offering you a Lift Your Business and Lift Your Life and Business planning session. And it's a bonus session. Typically, it costs people about $1,250 to book this session, a 2-hour working session with me, where I sit down with them to really go through these points and answer personalized questions. Today, we are also giving you $1,000 off so you can have access and be qualified to schedule this Lift Your Life and Business Planning session with us, as long as you secure it with a credit card and complete this 20-point assessment so we can give you the most value out of your 2-hour working session together. Okay? So with that, I wish you the best, and so that you can lift your life and business with absolute confidence to bring your work to this world with absolute clarity to your success. Thank you so much.